with Jim Guinta of the National Collegiate Wrestling Association, the Executive Director, coming around on now in our second decade.
We are.
The NCWA. It's kind of interesting that the NCWA is at the NWCA convention, very commonly misapplied acronym, but your role here, exactly what is it? It's obviously to grow the visibility of the organization.
You bet. This weekend, you mean, or in general? I mean, this weekend certainly a chance to network with the coaches that are out there, to make them aware of what our mission and goal is, the growth of wrestling overall. Much like the NWCA's mission from the coaching side, our objective is to get more athletes competing at the college level. You know, we have 200,000 plus athletes a year in high school graduating, yet about 8,000 or 9,000 spots available for them to do in college. Our goal really in the next 7 years is to have 20,000 spots available at the college level for these guys coming out of school.
Now, one thing that you kind of shy away from in our discussions in the past is it's not necessarily truly club wrestling. There are wrestling clubs as part of this, but it's not the club wrestling. It's the NCWA, it's National Collegiate Wrestling. You make an emphasis that it's not just clubs. There are varsity programs that are sponsored by the universities within the organization. So how about a little bit of background on what the organization was founded out of and where it's at now, and how that growth is not just necessarily supplemented the current collegiate, Division I, NCAA, NAIA scene, but the sport as a whole.
Well, Jason, I mean, the original mission and goal was to try to grow wrestling at the D1 level. As much as that was the mission, and really to extinguish ourselves as an NCWA program back in the 90s, the reality of it is we've only been able to push about one team a year from the NCWA into the NCAA. But the demand for wrestling has grown so much that we have 12 to 15 new teams per year joining the NCWA. As a result, we're at about 170 teams right now. We've got to take those teams from very clubby type programs up to what we consider Division I solid club programs, eventually into the athletic department.
When you say Division I, you mean as a separation with the NCWA, not NCAA Division I, just
Thank
to clarify.
you. Yes, that's absolutely important, because our Division Is, we really do want to separate. Many times within the wrestling community, they look at NCWA, and if their only exposure has been to a team with 4 or 5 kids on it that work out once or twice or 3 times a week, they would see this as a very low-level club. On the other hand, we have teams like Grand Valley and Central Florida and Apprentice that all operate on a very, very high level, and we consider those our Division I programs. From there, the objective would be to push them into one of the other divisions within wrestling.
Well, we also talk about what it's done for the apprentice school as an example, being from Virginia. They're a very unique athletic institution. They're kind of an affiliate member of Division III, but it's a situation where it's a trade school, so they pay their athletes. They have no postseason.
Correct.
Your organization has facilitated a postseason, and there's even some discussion about the U.S. Small College Athletic Association.
Yes. Teams
joining the NCWA and the Small College Association, which many wrestling people may not be aware of, but it's a national organization. And is that a window for the NCWA championships to eventually get the type of billing that, say, the NAIA or the NJCAA get in terms of the importance and exposure?
I hope so. I mean, that's our long-term goal. I would expect us to have, in the next 7 or 8 years, 30,000 or so fans at our national championships. But you're right. A school like Apprentice, who's had a wrestling program since the 1930s, has just never had an opportunity to compete in postseason because they don't qualify in the NCAA. And believe it or not, unbeknownst to me, frankly, years ago, there are a number of schools that fit into that category that have sort of have been orphaned in that situation, which we've picked up. You mentioned some of the other leagues. Penn State New Ken will start a program this year.
Where you went to college.
Exactly, my old alma mater. And Penn State Du Bois are both programs within the USA. And they should very quickly their varsity athletic programs funded by the athletic department, and I would see them moving quickly to the top ranks within our association.
Well, with that association, the tie-in with the U.S. Small College Association, is there going to be a joint kind of effort there that varsity, if that organization gets a certain number of teams, that is a valid national championship under their umbrella? How is the NCWA going to help facilitate that?
Well, you know,
like a dual membership role, or
initially
one to kind of oversee the other, or what?
You know, initially we haven't really worked out those details, but initially we're working together. Bill Casto and I have talked about it a number of times, and right now we want to empower them to grow within their league a wrestling division. Will that be part of our league? That'll really be their choice at some point as to whether or not they choose to stay part of the NCWA or maybe try to move into the appropriate division for the small college that they're in, whether that's D2 or D3.
As far as the growth, you know, we've got Division I, Division II, and what is the biggest stigma you've had to kind of shoot down over the last couple of years about the organization as a whole?
I mean, there's quite a few. I think that one of them obviously is that the competition level is ridiculously poor, which is not the case. We're certainly not in the leagues with the Oklahomas and the Iowas, but we also, you know, can hold our own, I think. So that's one stigma.
Well,
I think the other
one thing that adds to that is the addition of postgraduates at prep schools like Blair Academy's fifth-year kids. Wrestle a college schedule. This gives them a national championship to root for. The prep schools at Navy, Air Force, and Army have been very active in the NCWA. So what has that raised the bar of competition? Obviously it has.
It has.
Explain how it's exactly
well, it's raised the bar just because you have Division I recruited athletes that are part of our national championship. I mean, there are a number of things we're doing to push and raise the bar, including being able to have transition teams that transition from Division II to Division I, like Edwardsville is in the process of doing, or the 5 teams that are NAIA that are going to be moving from NAIA to D2 in their transition years may pop into the NCWA for 1 or 2 seasons. I love that. Some of the coaches aren't always excited about that, but it raises the bar and level of competition where people can see how those competitions cross over. The All-Star Challenge this year will include D2, NAIA, and the NCWA's national champs, and that could be a big deal. That's going to be in Orlando, Florida on January the 15th.
Last year you ran that as part of the Lone Star Duels when it was just the NAIA and NCWA, correct? Correct.
We had just those 2 divisions. Our goal would be to bring all 5 divisions together. You know, we have the All-Star Classic that's been a great event at the beginning of the season for D1, but D2, D3, NAIA, NJCAA, and NCWA have not really had that same platform. So this, we hope, will produce that platform for those divisions.
As far as the interaction with the NWCA here, what has been the biggest benefit for you representing your association to not just network and build schedules with these coaches, but as far as the understanding of where the state of wrestling is, the NCWA's importance, and the importance of how you can help the NCAA programs and vice versa? Well,
I mean, truthfully, NWCA is, I mean, Mike and the whole crew at NWCA have always helped us. I mean, if I could say one thing, it's that I always feel part of the group. I always feel that they're looking out for the coaches, whether it's at a scholastic level, at our level in college, or at the D1 level. Mike has always been very, very open and always asking to try to help, as well as all the rest of the staff. I've never felt slighted. It's always been one of those situations where they've asked us, what do you need? What can we do to help make things better? So we love being here.